You're listening to the Talkbox-SonjaG. You're listening to the Talkbox. Let's talk about it. Talk about it. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. Yeah, you're listening to the Talkbox-SonjaG. You're listening to the Talkbox. Let's talk about it. Talk about it. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it.
Hey, you guys, it's your girl Sonja G here on the Talkbox, and we're having a wonderful week with First Ladies Week, and I am so excited to introduce to you guys First Lady Toya Johnson of Zion Christian Ministries. So she's here with us today, and I love what we're going to talk about, the flip side of being First Lady. Before we jump in with her, though, you know what? I'd like to remind you, all of us have the authority and permission to live an abundant life. And so as long as you're on top of the dirt and the dirt is not on top of you, you got another day to get some things right that you didn't have quite right on yesterday. So help me welcome First Lady Toya. Woo!
Thank you so much for having me. Good morning.
Oh, we're so happy and excited to have you. I know that you don't usually like to be in the front of the camera, but I'm so thankful that you accepted your assignment on today.
Well,
so I want to ask you a question.
Okay.
So what is the flip side of being First Lady?
So I call it the flip side because there's always a stigma of what the First Lady is supposed to be, how she's supposed to act. And I would say when I was growing up, being a First Lady was probably the last thing that I thought that I would hold this title to. But, and there's no class, like there's no educational course that you take, like this is how you're supposed to be a First Lady. So I say the flip side because I've made it my own. I'm not going to act different than how I act in church than outside of church. So I'm Lady T. Lady T is the same person as Toya, same person as Miss Johnson, Bishop's wife, Chris's wife, CJ's mom, Jarrell's mom, Taraja's mom. I'm Toya, and that's what you're going to get.
Yeah, you know, I think when you talk about the stigma, there is a stigma. And I commend every First Lady because that's a hard position to have. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times it's a silent position. You know, folk knock you over to talk to your husband. You know what I mean? Like, and sometimes pastors, you know, the wife sometimes look like afterthought because of the church being first and this, that, and the other. But I beg to differ about that, Lady T, because the Bible said that he created the family before he created the church.
Exactly.
Now, that's what I know. Right. But I think that you wear that hat so well because even when we were getting ready, we were marketing for First Ladies, a lot of people DM me about you.
Wow.
And I thought to myself, she don't hardly talk. You know, you did some photography work with me. Right. But that lets you know that you're still being watched or admired. So I just want to commend you for wearing the First Lady hat so well and making it look easy when we know for real that it's not. So as a First Lady, what all do you do in regards to at the church?
Yeah, so I actually wear quite a bit of hats. So I am co-director or assistant director of Children's Church or the youth ministry. I also am over the dance ministry at Zion Christian Ministries. I'm on the media team, which is Cultured Media. So anything that you need me to do, if you need me to greet, I'm out there greeting. If you need me to sweep the floor, I've cleaned toilets before. Like, I'm not above anybody. I love to serve, and that's what we get to do. And just because I have the title of First Lady doesn't mean that I don't get to serve in the kingdom just like everybody else. So anything, those are my main ministries that I serve on most of the time. But if you need me, I'm there in any ministry.
Well, that sounds really humbling. But I think that we forget, not just as first lady, but as Christians,
Mhm.
point blank, period, that we were called to serve.
Correct.
We were called to serve, and so many times I try to point fingers.
Mhm.
However, some first ladies, girl, I ain't doing that, or I'm not doing this, or I'm not doing that. But at the end of the day, before you was first lady, I
Right.
would imagine that you was a woman of God or
Yes.
a child of God.
Yes.
And I think sometimes we might get away from that. And sometimes we just need to go back to the basics, because at the end of the day, we all were called as servants.
Of course. Even when, growing up, when my mom would take me to church, she made sure we served. She was over the children's ministry, so I had to help whether I wanted to or not. I had to participate. I was in the choir. I was on the dance team. They just started it before I left for college. But then, even when I came to college and got involved at the church that I was at before we went to Zion Christian or became Zion Christian Ministries, I was in the choir there. I was on the dance team there. Like, I don't know church without serving. So
Yeah.
when I become a first lady, why wouldn't I continue to serve? That's how
Right.
that's how I
Right.
was brought up. That's how I was taught. And that's what I'm gonna continue to do and teach my children as well.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. But I think also when it comes down to us serving and then getting elevated into another position,
Mhm.
some people forget
Yeah.
that you were called with purpose, not to call and come in and sit down. Oh, now I'm first lady. Now I done arrived. I
Mhm.
think that it's good to teach our children and to teach others and to hold others accountable,
Mhm.
that we in this thing to serve.
Right.
And sometimes we got to do people like Zacchaeus, baby. If you're too high, come down. You up in that tree? Come on back down here.
Come on
You
down here.
know, because sometimes
Yeah.
we get positions, first
Mhm.
lady, and we forget that we are to serve. We
Yeah.
forget. We get so heavenly bound that we're no earthly good, and that, I hate to say, is why we can't get people into the church.
Mhm.
Too, because they look and she stuck up. Well, I want to be like her. And
Yeah.
I think that it's very important to continue to mimic Jesus in his
Right.
walk as
Right.
a servant.
And I think there's a lot of things that go behind it. I try to keep an open mind when there's other first ladies that may not be as open or you know, behind the scenes or anything like that. There are some who have been called to preach and be ministers alongside their husband, or maybe even before their husband. That just wasn't my calling. so, so you have some of those who, share the pulpit or share the mic with their husbands, and
Mhm,
that's great for them. And then there's also the other ones, like you said, that are kind of a little reserved or stand backish. And
mhm.
I feel like sometimes you don't know exactly what made them that way.
Right.
There's things where maybe they came in being open and ready, and then
Got
things
hurt.
happen behind the
Mhm.
scenes. They were talking about her husband, so now she doesn't know she can trust, or
Yeah.
maybe she's been hurt. So I try to tell people when they say, you're not like other first ladies or anything like that. You're right, but there's always a reason why. There may be a
Right.
reason why she is the way she is.
Right.
So I think what I can say about Zion Christian Ministries is I have never been put in a situation where I do have to feel like I can or I have to reserve myself. I feel like my husband being my covering also has set it up that I never have to be put in those situations. He makes it clear, like, I'm only been with one woman. I'm going to only be with one woman. And so I have that confidence in regards to, I don't have to worry about, all that other stuff. I allow my children to be children. My kids mess up just like your kids messed up. So why are my
Right.
kids different from
Right.
you? So
Mhm.
I feel like we've always kept it in a point where we're gonna keep it real regardless, 24/7. So I just think that I've just been blessed to be in that position that I don't have to, put myself on reserve or again, that calling wasn't for me of sharing the mic with my husband.
Okay. Hold on.
Okay.
Hold on. I just heard you say that. Did you say your husband, you're the only woman your husband been with?
He said, I'm going to be the only person that you
Only
guys know ever heard of him being with.
of
is
him
me.
being with,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Okay. I
Yes.
wanted to clear that up. But
Yes.
I think that when your husband is the right covering,
Correct.
and he makes that very plain, that makes it easier for you.
Right.
You know what I mean? And I commend him for that. I like when my pastor says, my first lady, and I mean your first lady and my only lady.
Yes.
And I think when you put it in that aspect, it makes your first lady role not be so harsh. You know what I mean? Not be so hard to travel. And again, I know that everybody go through things. We're all human. We all make mistakes and that sort of thing. But having a good head above you is like no other. So I want to just digress just a little bit, because again, you are a wife.
Yes.
And I think that in this day and time, I don't think a lot of women know how to be wives. And so, and that makes everything hard, because God positioned things the way he positioned them. Now, if you want to die and go to heaven and ask him, why you make man head over me, or this, that, and the other, or you want to debate with God, that's on you. But when we start lining up and really doing and operating in our position as wives, position as first lady, in your rightful position as a mother, that's when we can live abundantly. He's given us permission and authority to live an abundant life, but there's some principles that we have to go by.
Correct.
There's a process that we have to take.
Yes.
And I think that that's very important. I just wanted to get that out there.
Yes. And then, you know, and with marriage, one thing that I could say that we didn't have, so I met my husband here in Murfreesboro at Middle Tennessee State University. I met him my second semester of my freshman year. So literally since 2000, it's been me and him. So I would say, and then it was his second semester as well. So of course, if you come to Murfreesboro and you see Chris and Toya, like from the beginning, we've been together. And so I would say in regards to that, I saw, of course, my mother be a wife and a mother. But there was things, you know, that are, I wouldn't say old school, but old school things that, you know, when I was growing up, I was like, nope, not doing that. Like, I'm not fixing his plate. Nope. You know, anything like that. But I think one positive thing that we had is my parents still reside in Colorado. At the time, his parents were in Florida. And so when we got married and when we had issues and when there were problems, there was nowhere to go. We were in Tennessee, so I couldn't go home and be like, I'm done and go home. He couldn't be like, I'm done and go home. We had to fight it out. And at the end of the day, you know, I feel like that is one of the bases of our marriage. I feel like marriage today is so easy to call it quits. You know, you can't come into a marriage thinking you're going to leave this marriage. And so I think even though we had our hard times, I mean, we were 21, 22 when we got married. So, you know, we had hard times. We were broke. We were both in school. We had a son not even a year later. So, you know, we were struggling. But I feel like those struggles helped build us to be where we are now. And so even with that, you know, being a wife these days and then going from, I mean, literally in the matter of months, I went from getting married to him announcing his calling till 3 years later being a first lady. And, you know, I feel like with all of that, there was stigmas, of course, like I said, that you had to think of, well, you know, first ladies wear hats. I'm not wearing no hat, you know.
I know that's right.
I'm not wearing no hat. So, you know, it was just little things that you always question yourself, even when you become a wife. Like, am I going to be a good wife? Am I going to do this right? when you become a mother, am I going to be a good mom? Like, what if I don't know how to do this? And the same thing comes with being a first lady. You know, am I going to, are the people going to accept me? You know, do I do this right? When I go out, can I do this? When I go out in the store, can I do that? You know, so of course, things you have to be mindful of. But if that's your life and you're going to live the way you live, you don't really
Live
have to
your
be
life.
mindful.
Well,
You know,
I think that you had a coming together with Bishop, your husband. He was already breaking some norms anyway, you know,
correct.
within the arena that he was in. You know, women not preaching that sort of thing. What I noticed about him and you as well, when you follow God instead of man,
Right.
see that level the playing field right there. When you following what God say, well, I know what man say, and even some laws. There's some things that are on the law books,
Right.
but God didn't sanction.
Right.
So, and you know, we have to just balance that thing out. And so you talking about you wasn't gonna wear no hat. Girl, I feel you. Look, Jesus didn't tell me that I had to wear a hat just because I'm first lady. Now you gotta find it in the book.
You know, if it's a hat day, I might come in there with a hat. Now I'm gonna come and it's gonna be cute. But that's about all you're gonna get from me.
Hat day.
Yeah.
You know, but just standing in your own and I think what's really great too, what I see you guys doing in the community, especially with the young men, because in this season, in this day and time, we women,
right,
that we are out of pocket sometimes.
We are.
Men were designed to be the head. And so what I really love is the things that you guys are doing with the young men there at Zion Christian Ministries, and the family unit as a whole. Right. But the greatest thing that you guys got going, just in case ain't nobody told you, is actually your marriage, because the anointing flows from the head down. And since y'all at the head, when somebody can see an actual genuine loving family, loving husband and wife, really determined to honor the covenant, and then the raising of your children and everything like that, that is just great and wonderful to me. I get tickled.
Well, thank you. Yeah, so we knew and it was a different dynamic between me and my husband, how all this came about. But actually, I started a girls mentoring group, and it's called 𝐿𝐒. It's my daughter's middle name, and 𝐿𝐒 is Hebrew for virtuous. So I started 𝐿𝐒, and actually it was started, I think, back in 2013, I want to say, was when my first group of girls graduated. And that at that time we were in the funeral home. So so that was when my first group of girls, and really and truly that was just for girls to have self-confidence, self-care, self-respect, self-worth. And so I have an actual mentoring group for 𝐿𝐒, and a lot of times when he's doing Man Maker, he might be in the front of, you know, our youth building, 𝐿𝐒's in the back, or vice versa. So we're meeting at the same time with these young ladies. And so, you know, we'll have the guys in the front, girls in the back, and then they leave 30 minutes because you got to separate them. So the girls may leave 30 minutes before the guys or something like that.
Right.
And so they, you know, again, I've had a lot of girls or young women that come up through there, grown and went on to go to college, get a degree or many things. So I'm so proud of my young ladies. Same thing with Man Maker Academy. He's had guys that, you know, have been court ordered or are on their final strike. And now you see those guys going to college, they're raising their family. So just seeing that in itself is a blessing for us. But marriage, of course, like you said, has always been our first love. We love to see couples thrive. We love marriage. I think in this day and age, me and him have been together. It'll be 22 years this coming July. It'll be 22 years this coming July, and I still get butterflies every now and then. Sometimes it gets on my nerves. Now we've been in this house
Okay.
for a week. Now sometimes we've been side each other like, look. But I still get butterflies with him. We still date. Our kids are of age now that we could just leave and be like, we out, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Go spend the night in Nashville and still love on each other. So and we just want to see other couples feel the same way. We didn't have this ministry when we got married. I think if we would have, that would have solved or prevented us from having a lot of issues that we did go through, which most couples go through the first 5 or 10 years of marriage. You were so used to being by yourself, and now you're becoming one.
Right.
I didn't
And you gotta share.
Yeah, I didn't know he leaves his socks on the floor. He didn't know that I have all these hair products on the counter.
You're right. All that.
Things that we do in marriage, and we love seeing marriages thrive. And so even if we can be models for any other couples or anything like that, or just, something to show that marriage is great and that you can have fun being married and in ministry and doing your own thing, then that's something that we're great. We love to do.
That's well-rounded on this journey to abundant living. I want to touch on this as well. You saying that y'all still date and you still get butterflies and things like that. But I also want to say, even the issues that you had early on, those were necessary as well, because you can't teach somebody something that you don't have no experience in, or you can't teach it at the highest level. Because I know that when I first married my husband, because I met and married him in 4 days. You remember I told you that 4 days. So, and that God hoodwink and bamboozle me.
Yeah, we were engaged in 6 months, so
man, I hoodwink and bamboozle. Okay,
yes,
I had been walking in celibacy for about 5 years, and it just happened. And so there was a lot of stress and strain. And right now we're in the process of writing a book called Marital Boot Camp, dealing with breaking of soul ties and that sort of thing. But when you're talking about dating and loving on each other, I just want to brag on my boo for a minute. We was on the road driving from Florida, and I love to see, you talking about butterflies. If my husband dances, it's on. That's a turn on to me. I don't even dance with him. I just stand there and just watch him dance.
Watch him dance.
And we were on the highway from Florida, and I said, babe, when we get back to Tennessee, can we go dancing? He pulled over on the side of the road, bumped the music, and just started dancing, baby. I said, boy, see, it's stuff like that, especially when you know that you've come from a place of, I couldn't stand you, and you couldn't stand me. And you tough it out because you're in a covenant.
Right.
You got to go through to get to. So I commend you with that dating.
Before we got married, we were friends. I mean, we were probably friends for like 2 days, but we were friends before we got married, we were friends. It came to the point where it was actually hilarious. Like, he became one of my, I don't want to say one of my girls, but he became one of my friends, one of my best friends. So, if I did go out with my girls and we were going out, he would come along. He was one of the crew. Me and my roommates, they knew him actually before they knew me, because they were all athletes. So he was just one of the crew. So there would be times he'll go over there and chill. There would be times like I would go and hang with his friends. And apparently I was one of their crews. Like, they were, fine speaking to me or speaking around me or anything like that. And then, at the end of the day, he is, I can say, my best friend. There's times where, I'm really sweet, but when I go there, I can get there quick. 0 to 10 situation. And he's I can go there, but he's one of the only 2 people that can bring me back to a 2. So if I am upset or I'm mad, I'll call him and he can bring me to a 2. And so like I said, we were friends
That's
before. He's still my best friend. There's, of course, marriage. There's times that, you argue or do anything like that. But I think after this while and this long, I mean, even if we do have, I can't remember a full time that we've been mad at each other.
So
I
how
would
long
say
have you been married
it'll be
now?
22 years in July. So I can't remember a time, I would say in the past 15, maybe even, yeah, I'll give it 15. I was going to say 20, but I'll give it 15. But maybe in the last 15 years, I can't remember a time that I was like mad at him.
Yeah.
Like, of course, you have a little disagreement, and then 2 seconds later, you want to go get something to eat. All right.
Yeah. Right.
So that's
Well,
just
I guess
where we are.
my situation is, I guess, crazy because I could be on 100,
Mm-hmm.
and then still, and when we first got married,
Mm-hmm.
it's so much bumping heads, especially not knowing him. In 4 days, he didn't know me or I didn't know him,
Right.
But he thought I was crazy because we would have some heated fellowship, and then I'm rubbing. I'm rubbing. What you doing? What you think I'm doing?
Yeah.
Hey, I'm trying to play catch up. 5 years. I'm trying to play catch up. I don't care if you mad. And
Get rid of some of this frustration.
give me. God said you ain't supposed to withhold from me.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And initially, and after we made it through all the rough stuff, he said, I thought you was crazy because most people don't want to be touched. And I was like, hey, ain't most people. That's the best way to get back in with me.
Exactly. Yes.
I don't care what you do, and
we can be mad later.
Yeah, we be mad later. But I think that in a marriage, though, really and truly, and my husband say, just because it's my favorite thing to do, I use that as an excuse. But I really think that that's somewhat of a cure-all. We can't be doing a whole bunch of arguing if we making love every day. Because you'll forget what it was, what was I mad about? Oh yeah, you left them socks.
Right. On the floor.
And it's so important in marriage for intimacy and that sort of thing. And I've been married before. And I was married a total of about 18 years before.
Okay.
And this time I've been married now 5 years last month. But I can honestly say that them first 2 years though.
Oh yeah. It's the make or break you period.
Yeah, it was. Oh my goodness. But we went through a whole lot, but I know why now. God showed me why. I was kind of mad at God for a minute. I'm like, you hoodwinking, bamboozle me, and then I'm in a situation I ain't supposed to be in, type thing.
Right.
And but we both had to grow.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
And I think as you grow in a marriage, little things that made you mad before, you realize it's not that big of a deal.
Yeah. It's not. And then the big things that you go through, I'm speaking for me, the big things that you go through is the way of teaching somebody else how to love through it, how to forgive through it. Because when we enter into covenants, he didn't say that a covenant is temporary. Right. A covenant is permanent. I tell people all the time, every relationship that you have can be seasonal except for marriage. Right. Marriage is not to be seasonal. Seasonally, we have to put our kids out, friends, stuff like that. Right. But not your marriage. So,
Yeah. And at the end of the day, kids come and then they leave. And then, people in your lives come and go, but you guys are supposed to be here forever. You guys are together forever.
Yeah. Well, First Lady Toya, the beautiful and wonderful and anointed wife of Bishop Chris Johnson over there at Zion Christian Ministries, we do thank you for coming on with us today. Do you have any last things to say?
Well, thank you so much for having me. And of course, if you're out there looking for a church home, you are welcome to come see us at Zion Christian Ministries, 4750 John Bragg Highway, Murfreesboro, Tennessee, where the great Bishop Chris Johnson is the pastor and bishop over that church.
That's right. Well, thanks again for being such an awesome guest on today. I want to remind everybody that all week long we're celebrating First Ladies. And so y'all need to make sure that you're following me. Make sure that you subscribe to the YouTube channel. And just in case you didn't catch who I am, I'm your girl, Sonja G, here on the Talk Box. And remember, you have the right to live an abundant life. God bless, and you have a great day.
Let's talk about it.